Hi, my name is Florencia Colella. I am part of the team that organizes the Farm Business Record Keeping for the Global Majority course. And I was also in charge of modules 3 and 5, module 3 being basics of record keeping and accounting, and module 5 being benchmarking your farm business and understanding your cost of production. There were some homework assignments associated with these two modules, and there were a couple of questions about what exactly I wanted you all to do for these two modules. So I just decided to record this video to explain that to you. So on the first place, the goal of those two modules homework assignments was to encourage you to extract more useful information out of your past farm books. So if you are farming already or have been farming for a while and have records for, say, last year's transactions, then this will be really useful for you. If you do not have any records yet because you either are not farming yet or are not keeping any records, this would still be good practice for you to sort of plan to move towards that in the next growing season. So you can just make up an example. That would be the idea. And so I'm now going to share my screen and show you what I would encourage you to do. Of course, we're all adults, and if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But the idea is to help you practice with this, or even like walk you through the process that that other farmers actually do every year at their farm. So the goal is for you to improve your business management skills. So that being said, this is the idea. So just let me share screen here. Yep. And so you are seeing just my browser. And so the first step of this homework assignment would be to find the farm records book for management. I've talked about the farm records book for management before, but just a little reminder, this is a record keeping tool that is free and that's online. You can access it, again, free of charge through your browser, but you can also purchase a paper version if you are more into paper. And you can also print it at home from the online version if you don't want to buy the whole booklet and perhaps just print the sections that you need. You can do that too. So to get there, you go to bit.ly/farm records book. You have it right there, bit.ly/farm records book, and you hit enter. And this booklet, or this spreadsheet, it's actually a spreadsheet, will open up. And so I have editing access to this because I am the administrator of this file. But when you do this on your computer, you are not going to have all of these options for changing things because, this is for everybody to use and we don't want you to be putting your personal information here. So the first thing you have to do is make a copy. So you'll go to File, Make a Copy here, and then you'll pick a folder in your Google Drive and you'll create a file of your own. So you'll make a copy of this file. I'm actually going to do that because I don't want to be making changes to this one, which is the public facing one that you all will be able to access at a later time. So I'm just going to close that one. And this is so I'm going to call this Florencia's copy of records for management. Okay. And so there's tons of different things you can do with this book. Let me just give you a general overview. The first page, so here is the first page, and there's, as you can see, 10 tabs here. And so the index sort of walks you through those 10 different tabs. The first one being farm expenses, second tab, farm income, third tab, personal deductions and adjustments to income. So these are personal transactions, not all of your personal transactions, but only the ones that may impact your taxes at the end of the year, that may save you some tax money at the end of the year. If you are interested in tracking all of your personal income and expenses, I do have another spreadsheet. So let me just switch over here. So this is a resources file that you can find in the Module 3 student folder of the Google Drive. And here is a personal cash tracker example. And so if you just want to take a look at that one, that is a personal cash tracker where you can track all of your personal income and expenses. The Farm Records book only focuses on the personal income and expenses that can have an impact on your taxes. Here, there's also a different farm cash tracker example. If you don't like the Farm Records book for any reason, you can create your own spreadsheet. You can, of course, always use a record keeping software if you are more into that. But here's just an alternative. Well, there's a chart of accounts here. I'm not going to go into that. The Farm Records book already has a chart of accounts that actually is in line with what taxes would require. So you already would be in a good place if you started using the Farm Records book, or even if you are using a software, then you can use those accounts as an example, because it's always nice to have them align with taxes. What else? So here's the link to the Farm Records book again, and you can also purchase it online, and there's some instructions for that there. Yeah, that's all I want to say for now on that. But let me just want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen, hopefully. Let me see. Yeah, I am. Okay. Just wanted to make sure you were seeing what I am seeing. Okay, so anyway, 1, 2, 3. Page 4 is the cash flow statement. And this is the one that I had asked you to do for Module 3. And then for Module 2, for Module 5, which was the second module that I taught, I wanted you to go to the net worth statement or balance sheet and put together your balance sheet. We sort of would be skipping these for the purposes of this this course, or these homework assignments, which are farm taxes and other taxes and production records. We'll just skip all of that for now. But then on page 8 is the balance sheet that I wanted you to focus on. We're also not going to take we're not going to pay too much attention to the income statement and financial measurements, not because they are not important, but because you don't actually have to do anything to get those. What I mean to say is that if you actually are able to put together your cash flow statement and net worth statement, the Farm Records book will basically calculate automatically your income statement and all of your financial ratios. And if for some reason that's not working, or if you want somebody to walk you through that, us at the Farm Business Management team with MSU Extension, so you can find your local person, or you can just get in touch with me. We can also put together an income statement and financial analysis for you, as long as you have created your cash flow statement and your balance sheet. So that's why those two are the most important parts of this book. So let me now go to pages 4 and 8 and show you what those have in them. So the cash flow statement will actually bring information from farm income and farm expenses, right? But for the purposes of this homework, you don't need to keep track of each detail in your income and expenses, although like in a real life scenario, that would be the flow, right? You would first put your income and expenses in their corresponding pages, and then you would summarize on page 4. But today we're just going to skip to page 4, and either you can bring this information in. I mean, if by all means, if you think that it would be useful for you to make a list of all of your income and expenses, then you can go back into pages 1 and 2 and do that. But if you already have a list somewhere else, or you are just in a hurry and you don't want to put all of that work, that's fine. This is what really matters. And I hope this is large enough for you to see. If not, please open this on your own computer and zoom in as you need. but let me just move this here. So, but basically, here are income items. And here's space for you to add other income items that you may have. And if you need extra space, you can either print more of these pages or add rows. That's up to you. The way this is designed is so that when you print this, you will have a letter page on the left and another letter page on the right. And then there's some, like on pages 1 and 2, there are some like really wide tables. And so you can look at those by looking at one letter page here and another letter sized page here. So that's why that's the, the design of this booklet. So, but here on the left, we have income items, and on the right, we have expense items. And these columns here are enterprises. So, for example, if you're growing vegetables and you have tomatoes, kale, and cucumbers, well, then you can say, for example, well, I got money for farm market sales or farmers market sales. And then I say that I had a total of, I don't know, $5,000 in farm market sales on the first quarter. I can say, well, my first enterprise will be tomatoes, and I can actually change this if I want, or I can assign a number and, always remember that tomatoes are my number one and so forth. You can create whatever works for you. And if you don't want to do enterprise analysis yet, because that's just like more complicated, you can just, do a general farm cash flow statement, and you don't need, I guess, like, it's better if you have the specific information, but if you're just starting and that's too complicated, don't hang up on those details. But if you do want to do that, then you can say, well, of those $5,000, I can either prorate or, there are different ways. If you're looking back and you don't really have the information of how many actual tomatoes you sold or how many actual pounds of each product you sold, then you can make an estimation. Then you can say, well, 50% of my sales were from tomatoes, and 40% of my sales were kale, and then 10% were cucumbers. These are for you to make an estimation. If you actually have the detailed information, then you can just say tomato, something like that. So this is up to you how you're going to design this. And then there's other income sources that you could be getting. If you are not getting any of these sources or some of these sources of income, and you also want to delete some of these, you will be able to do that. You cannot edit the public facing version, but once you've made a copy, you can make any changes to this spreadsheet. Okay, so that's for the income. Then the expenses are here on the right side. And again, there's like standard expense items that if you use, then you can use this. If you don't, then you can just replace them by your own expenses. But if you are actually, if you are, say, buying feed, please then use this line. Don't add another feed line here, because that would make it harder to have your automatic income statement and financial ratios calculations done afterwards. Hopefully that made sense. So use these if you have these types of expenses, and if not, you're welcome to delete them. But anyway, if you have other expenses here, packaging would be a common example, then, well, as long as, I don't think we have packaging here, but you could have that as supplies. So you make your judgment call and either use one of these or add whatever else you need here. And again, you're going to put totals here per quarter. And even if you don't want to split it by quarter, because you're just doing everything at once now at the end of the year, because you just didn't keep track by quarter, just go ahead and put the total here. That's fine. As long as you have a total for the year, you will be in a better place than not having the total. So again, the these estimations for, what expenses went to each of your enterprises would be useful. Again, if you don't want to use those, because that just adds another layer of complexity, you can skip those columns there. Okay, so that's this first part of the cash flow statement. The second part here to the left, we have other income and expense items, mainly referred to capital purchases and sales. So if you bought livestock, if you bought machinery, those types of things will go here. And personal income and expenses go here. So I said before that on page 3, we had those expenses that would be tax deductible, but here you're going to be adding things that go on top of your tax deductible expenses and income. So for example, you're going to have your expenses that are going to be coming from page 3 if you used page 3. In your case, you may not have used page 3, and in that case, you can just use one of these 2 lines and disregard the other one. Hopefully that made sense for your non-farm income. So these are your expenses, and these are your income items from outside of the farm. So wages, if you have an off-farm job, if you rent a property, and other types of things like that. And then if you have loans, money that you borrowed and money that you repaid would go here. And these are the, so at the top of the cash flow statement are the operating activities. So to the left, we had operating income. To the right, we had operating expenses. And here are our investing activities and our financing activities. It's just the way that the cash flow statement is typically broken down into. And non-farm income and expenses. Those are the typical sections of the cash flow statement: operating, financing, investing, and personal. All right, so that's it for the left side of the cash flow statement. To the right, and that's the end of the cash flow statement there, but to the right here, you can see that whatever I input in the rest of the table is going to be coming in automatically. But what I will have to add here is my beginning cash balance. So if on January 1st of 2022, I had $20,000 in the bank, I'm going to say I had $20,000 in the bank. And then this is going to add up my inflows. And then I'm going to have to enter my ending cash balance. So suppose that I had $10,000 at the end of the year in the bank. What this is going to do is tell me how much my family living expenses should have been to make it be consistent with what I had at the beginning, what I made at the farm, what I may have made outside of the farm, and all of my expenses, which I don't have any here, but they will all be coming in from the table above or this one to the left. So what this tells me is it looks like you spent $15,000 in your family living expenses. And I had not included any family living expenses here. So it makes sense that I'm maybe missing something. And so this is an opportunity to double check what my family living expenses were and try to make them try to reconcile them. So I can go through my personal family living records and see if this makes sense. If this does not, if I actually had $20,000 in family living expenses, then that means that there is a $5,000 discrepancy. So maybe I missed $5,000 worth of farm expenses or farm income, So the idea of this table is to summarize and to give you a tool to reconcile all of your records. So let's suppose that we actually did have the $15,000. So we actually are all consistent. And so we have $15,000 in family living expenses reported. We have $15,000 that the table is calculating for us. So there is a $0 discrepancy. So we are good. That would be the end of the homework for Module 1, Basic Accounting and Record Keeping. This puts you in a very good place to do lots of other things, taxes being one of them, and farm business analysis, or, more things with your financial records. The other thing that you will need for good financial records is a balance sheet, and that's what we discussed in Module 5. So what I want to show you next is page 8, the net worth statement. So page 8 and all of the pages here in this book start with explanations, and I'm not going to have you read all of this, but I want to show you the tables themselves. This is long. Okay, you can see here there's tables and tables and tables and tables. This is just a space for you to put your stuff, and I'll walk you through. You may not need all of this, but it's good to have a reminder of, well, do you have some of this, or do you, because you may have gotten something and maybe forgetting to count it. So we start with current farm assets, the first one being cash. So that's what this box is for. Then we have prepaid expenses and supplies on hand. So if you have seed, if you have chemicals, those types of things, you would put them here. And this explains how to value them. So you value them with what you spent, the money that you paid for them. And there's, again, explanations here that you can read. But then there's cash and growing crops. So if you have crops standing, you would also have to value those. Then you have accounts receivable. If money is owed to you, that is also a current asset. Hedging accounts, if you don't even know what that is, you can skip it. Other current assets, if you can't think of anything, you can skip that. Then there's crop inventory. If you have crop stored, then you would use this table here. Then if you have livestock, you would have to value your livestock. Your market livestock would go here. And that's it for current assets. Then this will add your current assets value automatically. And then it goes to intermediate farm assets. Breeding livestock, so you would list all of your breeding livestock, put it here, value it. Machinery and equipment. This part here is for calculating depreciation. It may be more advanced than you want to get into at this point. If that's the case, you can just totally skip that. But if you have machinery and equipment, at least starting a list would be really useful. There's cost values and market values, and we have talked about that in the module. I'm not going to repeat all of that. There's also an explanation at the top of this page that explains what cost values and market values are and why we keep track of both. But anyway, other vehicles, titled cars, that type of thing. Other intermediate assets. If you can't think of anything else, then you're done with your intermediate assets, and the table will calculate your totals automatically. Then there's long-term assets, land, buildings, and improvements. And you can skip the depreciation thing if that's too complicated. Again, once you get a head start, then it's very easy for us to help you out. But, if you come with absolutely zero, then you'll be given something like this. If you don't like this format, then you can start with a different format. That's totally fine. But, get something going and then ask for help. And we are always very happy to help you. And we can do a full farm financial analysis for you. And we would really, really love to do that for you. But we need you to do the first effort. Okay. So other long-term assets, again, if you can't think of anything else, you're done. And the table will calculate your total long-term farm assets here, and your total farm assets, including intermediate and short-term, down here. Then it has a space for non-farm, personal assets, vehicles, etc. And then it combines farm and non-farm assets. Then it goes on to farm liabilities, or liabilities in general. We're going to look at farm liabilities and personal liabilities too. So this is very detailed, but you actually do need that detail, because there is in farming, there is this, this interaction between the farm income and expenses and assets, and the personal income and expenses and assets. So while the first few pages, we try to not to overwhelm you with lots of detail about your, each of your personal transactions, eventually you're going to have to count what you own and what you owe at the farm. But again, that's something that not everybody does. So, if you want to just skip your personal stuff, that's fine. There's always time to add more information later. So first focus on the farm. And so current farm liabilities would be like credit cards or short-term loans like that you are going to repay in the next year. Then there's intermediate farm liabilities, so loans that you may have gotten for a piece of equipment, those go here, and the table will add the totals for you. And then there's long-term loans if you have purchased land or other longer-term assets with a loan. And then it will add up your total farm liabilities. There's some other pieces of information here that you can totally skip, and actually the table will be doing some math for you. So, if you don't know what something means, there are explanations, but just go for the basics first if it's too complicated, and we'll add more information as we go. And again, we're very happy to work one-on-one with you if you find that this would be of value to you. But get a draft going, and then we'll go from there. Non-farm liabilities, and then it will add your combined farm and non-farm liabilities, and by then you'll have all of your assets and all of your liabilities, so you'll be very close to being done with your balance sheet. Then there's equity, which is money that you put into the farm as an individual, or money that you got from the farm as an investor in your farm, and that goes here. But again, that's not the most fundamental part of the farm of the balance sheet. So if you have put your farm assets and liabilities, we can go from there afterwards. So this table to the right summarizes again, and it will summarize your farm assets, current, intermediate, and long-term, your personal assets, your current farm liabilities, intermediate, long-term, and your personal liabilities. And then it will combine assets and liabilities, and then it will calculate your farm net worth, your non-farm net worth, and your combined farm and non-farm net worth. And that's it. Then it just does a few calculations for things that we need to further analyze your farm, and the table is actually doing the math. If you see here, there's a formula. So, if you see that there's a formula there, or you don't know what something is, you can skip that, and we can, explain that in a future meeting. So I'm just going to end this here. That's the goal of Module 3 homework and Module 5 homework. And if you decide to go ahead and do this homework, you can do a couple different things. You can just put a copy of this file into your student folder, or you can set up a one-on-one meeting with me, and we can review this together to make it a little more interactive. I think that might be useful. If you, start putting in the work, then it's nice to have some feedback and being able to talk with someone instead of just uploading a file. So, if you're more into chatting with someone, I'm happy to do that. So here I'm going to write a link that you can go to schedule a meeting with me, if that would be of value to you. So it would be bit.ly. I'll make it larger in a second. So let me just write it down and make it bigger. So you can, okay, that didn't work, but let me see if, all right, there it is. Bit.ly save a time. So if you go there, there's going to be calendar. And it may look a little different for me than it will for you. Oh, and it's taking really long. Well, I guess perhaps you just won't be able to see it, but okay, there it is. And you can pick a time that works for you, and we can meet and take a look at this in person. Again, the goal is, I'm going to stop my share. So again, the goal is for you to start building a good farm record keeping system. If you are in a good place to do that, if you feel that you're not in a place where this would be helpful for you, you don't have to do it. But I would argue that, if you are taking this course, sooner or later, you are going to want to put together these types of documents, whether if it's for trying to get financing, or for your own management, to be able to tell if your tomatoes are making you more than your kale and that type of thing, that this analysis will give you those answers. It does take a lot of work. I want to acknowledge that. We are all very busy, and this takes time. So we're here to support you. You do have to put a little bit of effort, but we can schedule meetings. We can try to keep you on track. So that's why I wanted to also show you that that link to schedule a meeting, and I'm happy to meet with you as much as you need. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for bearing with me as I walked you through, and let me know if you have any questions.